Welcome everyone to What the Force Live! And with me, Marie Claire Gould, is my co-host, Ty Black.
Hello, live. That was really well done.
Yeah, and today we're going to be talking about the feminine gaze, because it's been a while since we've talked about it on the podcast, and we thought it would be a really nice stream topic. And it's going to go in and out of Star Wars, but we're going to talk a lot before that starts. Some of our Q&A questions, have a few announcements, dig into some stuff before we go into that topic. But we think it'll be fun as a live thing that we do. And we're really excited to see you guys all here. Feel free to share this out with Twitter or your social media if you want people to join you. It really does help people find the show and join us in this conversation, which is, I think, really, really important. Anything kind of before we get started, Ty, and into kind of announcements and thoughts?
Oh, thoughts. We have a lot. I think collectively it's going to be an interesting live stream because since we decided to do this, I think more often, there can be more topics we can get into lightly as opposed to having to build up to all of this, like, really heavy topic and delve into it really deeply. And so today we can kind of hit some lighter things and talk about some more relevant topics. And obviously there's a lot of things going on right now because everyone is online a lot and there's a lot happening. So,
and like to piggyback on that, the reason I'm doing this more often is kind of my own coping mechanism for dealing with like everything that's going on. And I appreciate that you guys all want to spend some time with Ty and I, and, I might have some different guests I'm actually reaching out to. So Ty's not always feeling like I'm like, hey Ty, you want to live stream?
You want to have to put makeup on and do your hair.
Yeah. Like, you want to put pants on today?
Oh yeah. I'm wearing jeans. I'm actually wearing real pants. Like, that's insane.
It's such a change for us.
Yeah, pretty much.
But I it's part of my coping mechanism, and so I want to encourage everyone watching this, listening to this, to find the things that bring you some joy in this situation, because it's really hard right now, and we understand that, and that's why we're doing this, and we want to be able to connect with you more directly, and this is a way to do that. Seeing people and talking with them directly is like, it's really important. And even though, it's Ty and I talking to each other, we're also sharing that time with you. And I think it's just really, really nice. So
yeah.
And yes, I just saw somebody. There's so many live streams happening. It's because like we have nothing else to do, I guess. That's okay. We hope that you enjoy this one. I saw somebody special in the chat already. Hi, Anna Perez. I noticed on Facebook that you said that this was your birthday, so happy birthday. Anna is a patron of ours, and I'm so happy that you were able to have, I don't know, hopefully a treat for your birthday.
Yeah, hopefully. Happy birthday. Happy birthday.
Hopefully. Okay, so on to Star Wars, and there's been some weird stuff because, I mean, Twitter is a weird place, and I want to just take a moment and talk about fandom culture a little bit. So recently, and this is actually not a new problem. This has been going on since the inception of Twitter. There has been this fandom friendship / interaction crossover. And I don't want to name names because, like, I don't want people to go after anyone or consider this, but it's actually been quite a long problem. And some people have reacted by either pulling back from Twitter, from going on private, etc. I'm not going to name any names, but we know these things have happened. And essentially what has happened recently is creators and people, employees of Lucasfilm, have been jumping into people's replies and commenting on things that they were not tagged on. Also on our fandom side, you know, this is a long time problem, tagging people in anger, you know, and then kind of being like, how dare you, you know, the official account, creators, the story group, etc. And I tweet a lot about saying, you know, don't at people. It really, like, especially if you're angry, if you're happy and you want to say something nice to them, like, at them, they really do want to know. And I think it's nice. But if you're kind of saying something in anger, it just won't help anything, and it'll just make them feel sad, I think. And did you want to talk a little bit about this?
Yeah, I like, you know, like, the part of me understands the anger, but, you know, I don't tag them. I think that's a good rule of thumb, is to just, you know, I share screenshots, and I'm also really careful about that. Like, if I want to follow someone and I want to see what this creator says about this, I'm not going to block them forever, because I do want to see what they say about things, right? So that's kind of the problem. But when I go to share a screenshot, or if I'm openly talking about something that they said, I block them temporarily, because I've seen what happens, you know, and I don't want things to snowball. And I want to be angry, you know, I want to be disappointed. I want to express my thoughts on my Twitter with my friends, you know. I think that's what it's there for, you know. And so, and as somebody who doesn't have a lot of friends in real life, who's, you know, really just, you know, getting that sort of, like, those friendships are online, those friendships are in that space. I shouldn't have to worry about a creator coming onto
jumping into your mentions and being like,
I really
hey,
shouldn't.
What's up with this?
Like, I really shouldn't even have to do this temporary block thing.
Yeah, like, I don't think I've ever seen this sort of reaction from a creative team, like searching
their names, or I don't know what they're searching. In some cases it's very odd. In some cases I wonder if there are people who they know who send to them tweets and say, hey,
or you know, they share people in common. And I think that this is the long-term, like, effect of how the fandom culture in Star Wars developed. And it goes back to basically Celebration. The first Celebration was by the fans for the fans, and then it was taken over by the corporate culture. So it was basically run, so think like Celebration, how big of a corporate thing it is now. It was entirely run by the official Star Wars fan group. Originally, for the first couple of years, and then Star Wars took it over and started to run it. But, like, even up until more recent years, instead of, say, hiring, you know, celebrities, or I would say until the Disney acquisition, they would have, like, podcasters be the hosts for big panels at Star Wars Celebration. So, like, there's this big blurred line in the culture of the fandom. And as much as Lucasfilm and Disney don't want to say that that's part of the problem, is we are all part of Star Wars. Like, that's probably a big thing, is that people don't like get that on either side. Like, we're part of it because we are consuming the media, and we contribute to the unofficial quote unquote media, but in transformational works, fan arts, discussions, podcasts. And if you need more on this, go back to the Medium is the Message episode, which came out in January. And it's just really fundamental to understand how media actually is more than just what the creators create. It's also how we interpreted it as part of an audience that takes it and transforms it into podcast, live streams, conversations. And it has affected Star Wars because of the hate for The Last Jedi.
Yeah, and let me just say that like the hate for the Last Jedi and how that played out and how those people acted, that became part of Star Wars too.
Yes.
And we can't just pretend that didn't become a
Happen.
part of, yeah, we can't. A lot of the creators want to pretend that it didn't happen or that it doesn't matter, and then they want to lump in a lot of the negative reactions happening right now with that same group because of that. They don't want to address anything happening with the fans. And that's a problem because they're also interacting with the
Mm-hmm.
fans in
They are
areas they.
saying, at least some creators totally have a distance, right? And they've created that. But I think it's I think it's just really important to keep that in mind. And
Mhm.
personally, for me, I forgive everybody
Yeah.
because, like, it's a stressful time right now. It's Twitter itself creates these parasocial relationships that make us misunderstand the
Mhm.
relationship and the boundary, like that. It's like the Twitter wall doesn't exist sometimes. And I just needed to talk about it because it was on my mind a lot this week.
Yeah. It's
fem-
important.
Female fandoms traditionally manage this a lot better.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So can I actually, you had asked me this question, I think sometime within the week, and
Yeah, as we
I
were
got my
prepping.
mind,
Yeah.
yeah, I got my mind thinking like, female fandoms are like really good at this sort of thing. They tend to like mass decide, like they tend to like collectively decide, hey, we need to do this because it's better for everyone, as
Mm-hmm.
opposed to like male fandoms who just kind of quietly separate into their subgroups.
Mm-hmm. Like, for
Well,
example, BTS Army, like
yeah.
predominantly female fandom, and they're like, there shall be no interaction unless it's positive. Don't you dare.
Yeah, and so with BTS fandom is something I wish a lot of what like Raylos honestly would learn from a lot of what happens in like K-pop fandom and army fandom. There's a lot of lessons to learn there, and one of the big things is that somebody created like this little. Oh yeah, I love your little mug. Somebody created this little image that says we're busy. Basically, the art. Thank you so much for your controversial post. The army fandom is busy today. Get back with us after this date. And it's like a little disclaimer. And whenever somebody tries to say something to kind of rile up the army fandom, like just to be mean to the boys or mean to armies, you'll see like thousands of responses that have that image underneath it. And the ones that continue on the drama, the ones that feed into like giving that person clout that, you know, just wants the clout, those people are told, hey, like, you need to stop. You need to realize what you're doing. And I think that's one of the biggest lessons that Army learned right away was that however massive they were, like, if they were going to interact with negative posts, then they were doing themselves a disservice.
Yeah.
They were hurting the fandom and they were hurting the reputation of the boys. And that's like the last thing they would want to do. So I think with Raylos, it's harder because we're defending a fictional ship. But you have to remember, like, we're defending ourselves and our desires and our wants. And like, if you can think about it like that, and you can try to
Like, disassociate
like,
yourself from the main problem and go for the actual truth, which is we want to defend ourselves, desiring and wanting feminine things in our media,
yes, in our mainstream
in our
media,
mainstream
we belong
media.
here.
We
Yeah.
belong here. Our voice, our needs are totally valid and should actually be met because we have money and we want to spend it. That's the long and the short of it.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that's important. And somebody pointed out like that's K-pop fandom in general. Yeah, but you know, I'm not involved in other fandoms in K-pop other than BTS really. And I understand like the dichotomy with that. I understand like the differences. But generally, any female run fandom, look at what they do, look at how they act in comparison to male run fandom. Star Wars is still a male run fandom.
It is, yes. That's the important
Or,
thing that we're gonna get to.
Yeah, we'll talk about that. And again, like, don't take me the wrong way when I say male. I really mean masculine. But you know what I mean by now, I would hope. Like, it's definitely a feminine versus masculine thing, and we're going to talk about that too a lot more. So
yeah.
But yeah.
And I do want to say, to quote BTS and their great song "Ugh,"
yes,
stay angry. Anger isn't bad, but just make sure it's the right kind of anger. Don't troll, don't abuse, don't be mean. Just keep it in your heart, because it is driving. It is driving, and you seek out the types of fiction that satisfy your desires, because fiction, as much as people want to downplay its importance to disqualify your desires, it's actually so fundamental to our psychology. Like, how we tell stories to ourselves is one of the most important humanistic things that we do and we create. And the fact that we, in especially Western culture, have lived for so long with a predominantly masculine gaze is part of the problem.
Yeah. Yeah, totally.
Okay.
We're going to get more into that in a little bit, but
it's so funny because, like, Megan was like, ugh is so good. Megan Bell in the chat, and she's been bugging me about it, and I listened to it. I'm like, oh my God, it's so good. Because it's all about staying angry, but the right kind of angry, using it for social change, using it for culture change. But part of that is how we express ourselves in a cultural manner. Don't disqualify that. Just don't get angry over petty stuff. Get angry, and that's literally over fundamental stuff.
Yeah, that's a part of the song too. The big part was like, stop like hating me. Like, it was talking about all these people on the internet like hating them, the ones singing it, BTS. And it's like, you're wasting your time. You could be angry at all these other things that would actually do some change, do some good in the world if you could just channel that anger somewhere else. So, and that's honestly, like, I see a lot of people subtweeting some of my stuff, and I don't want to cause a lot of drama over it, but like, honestly, like, don't subtweet my stuff and say like F somebody and that's it. Like, like you feel free to be angry at them, but like, maybe kind of explain it a little bit, because like pure hatred is just it's not going to do anything. It's not going to do anything. And I'm not talking about how you look to other people. I'm just talking about like true, actual change, like actually, expressing why you are angry. Like, that's where I'm coming from. And I hope people understand when I say that, like, it's sometimes it gets a little out of hand. So yeah.
And with this, I'm just going to say, I've been in the Star Wars fandom for a very long time. And I was quiet for many, many years, like all throughout the 90s and early 2000s, in that I was on Twitter, I was tweeting people, I was listening to podcasts, but I wasn't like a public fan like I have chosen to be creating the podcast. I just decided to like Kool-Aid man through the door and be like, I'm a public fan now, ladies and gentlemen, and then like, like made this podcast, and it's doing okay. That's
so funny.
But like, this is what I did, and like, I've seen so many changes in the fandom, and I see these repetitive cycles, and I can exactly tell what is causing them. Like, literally, this last week's episode of the Clone Wars pissed off men. Like, so many men like stink because they were like, oh, these Martez sisters, they're so annoying. I'm like, I literally heard this about Ahsoka right after the Clone Wars movie. You're not surprising. You're not new. Get over yourselves. It's actually really fascinating to see women make mistakes on screen and learn from those mistakes. And this episode was a psychological conversation about reflecting each other's shadows on each other. It was amazing. GTFO.
Yeah, I saw that conversation on Twitter today. I thought it was really interesting how people were kind of like proving the point just by, their pure like dislike of it versus their
Yeah, it's like you're showing
celebration of it.
yourself as a
Yeah.
misogynist. Get out. Did you not know?
Really interesting.
So with that, what I want to say is you have to be more zen like. You have to be more patient. I'm not saying don't go and seek out fiction, and we're going to get into that. Go and seek out fiction that meets your needs, because Star Wars will take a long time to change. It's just how it is.
Yeah.
And yeah, we may get the myth repaired and we may not, but it is still an important thing to pay attention to, because Star Wars is a reflection of where we are at. And when we head into big cultural changes, there is always like this back and forth backlash, and it's like a wave. It's like we make progress and then there's a fallback, and then we make progress and then there's a fallback. So like nothing is going to just change kind of overnight. I'm sorry to say that. And the fact that Tross ended up being very, very masculine gaze, it didn't surprise me. It did surprise me in that it took me by surprise, but the fact that it happened makes me sad rather than like just angry now, I guess.
Yeah, that's where I'm at too.
Yeah.
Yep.
So
and trying to learn to learn more. Sorry. Yeah, trying to learn more, trying to understand where we're going now. So and to transition, I guess, the next
and
part
how
of
you
this.
can engage with media in a
Where do we
way.
solve this?
Oh, do you have alcohol next to you? Okay, well,
oh yes,
because we're about to get into our Q&A section. We're gonna do Q&A first. And we got a bunch of Q&As, so we'll go through them all. I know it's a tough time right now, and so I don't expect anyone to become a patron, but I always answer Patreon questions first when we do live streams. So if you're interested, go ahead. I do not expect anybody to sign up right now.
No.
Whoa. And if you are a
expected.
patron and you can't afford to hang on, I totally understand. So don't feel bad. Okay. All right. Let's start with our first question from Selena or Sulichan. I love you, Selena. I don't know if you're on, but crack ships, do they have a purpose in fandom? If yes, discuss. They have existed forever.
Yeah.
Like
they've never not existed.
They have never not existed. So yes, they do. And to me, shipping in general is like fantasy football for feminine gaze. Like, oh, this relationship works with this relationship, even though they're not even on the same team. They're not even like theoretically ever supposed to work together. Yeah.
Selena is here, apparently.
Oh, hi, Selena. I love you. So yes, they do play a role, and they play a role in transformational fiction in that you're like, hey, what if I put, Hux and Rose together? And then you're like, if I change this a little bit and write a new fiction, oh my God, I have a new story that satisfies my need as a person consuming media. So yes, it does. It creates boundary changes, and it changes the way we think about our fiction by just throwing it out there.
Yeah. Isn't Selena the one who draws Snoups?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, so I love that so much. Like, I cannot get enough of it. It's hysterical, mainly because I've seen so much fan art, and then when I see that fan art, I go, "Wow, that person has to draw that." Like, why? But it's so entertaining to see it be done in like such a like
fabulous
really,
way.
Yeah, I'm like, wow, that's talent right there.
I'm hiring,
but it's
Selena
so funny
to draw me some stuff. It's gonna be really good.
Oh my God, it's gonna be great. That's gonna be great.
Yeah.
But I love that. I love the crack ships because it helps us. It's really helped us, I think, a lot with what happened with
Coping?
Tross. Yeah, it helps us cope.
Yeah.
And it's all about like using those tropes that everybody knows to kind of create this collective joke. But also to kind of like experiment with some weird things in your head maybe sometimes. And that's all a part of it. That's what it's for. And it's fun. So
Mm-hmm. Yep.
all right, next question.
Do you want to ask it?
Sure. So the next question is from at Darth Ephra.
Mm-hmm.
If you could pull a fictional character from another universe and drop them into the Star Wars universe, who would you choose? And they added that they would like to see Arya Stark as a Padawan, which I thought was a really like awesome choice. I thought about this for like 2 seconds before we started, but I couldn't really think of anyone. Game of Thrones is like an obvious choice because you got some really cool feminine characters that you didn't really get to see do the things you wanted to see them do, except for Arya. But I don't know, maybe like Moulin Rouge with lightsabers would be really cool.
Mm-hmm.
So that's like the kind of stuff I would like to see more of. I want to see like more tropey. I know it sounds weird.
Oh, I have a perfect answer for you because I already answered this on Twitter once.
Yeah.
Okay, so any Shakespearean play
Yeah.
done in Star Wars. Anyone, just straight up translate it.
Okay,
With
my favorite
lightsabers.
Shakespeare of all time is As You Like It.
Okay.
It's my favorite one by far.
Much Ado About Nothing. Can you imagine?
Like probably my second favorite.
Yeah.
No, those two are very, very similar. And like, yeah, those would be amazing as Star Wars.
I have another answer as well.
Okay.
So taking the like Chinese mythology god pantheon and directly translating it into Force gods.
That would be awesome. That would be so cool.
Yeah, that's my
That would explain everything.
Yeah, that would explain freaking everything, why nothing works out ever. And like, because the gods are freaking idiots. Like,
hashtag make Lucasfilm watch Zhen drama.
Yeah,
please.
Like Ashes of Love, Eternal Love. Just watch both of those and just like make it happen.
They'll be like, oh my God, I had this really great idea for a character. And I'll be like, okay, all right, yep. I'm following.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay, so how hopeful... So there's actually two questions about hoping the myth will be saved. So one is from Amanda and one is from Kristen LD6571 on Twitter. But how hopeful are you that the myth can be saved? I have moments where I'm confident and moments I'm not. Overall, I want to be hopeful. What about you? And then the other question from Kristen is, I know how Ty feels about the hope for Ben's return, but I'm wondering if YMC might be holding out hope and anything in particular pointing towards future good news beyond it being a way to repair the myth. Oh, goodness. Do you want to talk about this at all? Like, clarify your perspective?
Yeah, I'll briefly say that from a storytelling perspective, there is no way to bring Ben back.
There is too. Shut up.
No, there's not. There's not because predominantly they killed off the last Skywalker in the Skywalker saga. That's the way they saw it. That's the way they have to move forward.
I suppose there is no way. Documentary kind of said it that way, yeah.
Yeah. So if they're going to lean into that, which according to the art book and a bunch of other things we've seen, the story group's accepting this as the myth. They're accepting this as what happened. So I don't see that happening. But of course they're going to try to, of course there's going to be like something down the road which better handles the messaging. Like Clone Wars, it handles messaging just fine. Even like Resistance and like everything else. Everything else
but Tross handles the messaging fine.
Yeah. So like I don't have I have a little bit of a hang up with some of the other, I have some concerns, but I'm not.
You mean High Republic?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful.
Oh, it's just the starting place, and shit's
I
gonna
know.
go bad. Like it's
I know. Well,
yeah.
Charles Soule just keeps saying over and over again, this is the tip of the iceberg. Please hang
Yeah.
in there. Please hang
I
in
mean,
there.
Kevin Scott literally was like,
Kevin
"Don't
said
be
the same
scared, Marie
thing.
Claire." And I'm like,
Yeah,
"I'm scared."
like seriously, I love these I love not these I love these writers. Like I love
Yeah.
these writers. I'm not that worried, but I'm a little worried from a femme gaze perspective. I'm a little worried.
Yeah. I haven't
But
seen enough to be like, "Oh, this is where they're going."
yeah,
But I'm never not going to raid Charles Soule. Like I trust him a lot
yeah.
from a complexity perspective, as well as I trust Cavan too, although he said some weird stuff about Tross. I love him. Like we had such a great conversation when I interviewed him, and he really understands character complexity, especially Ventress. Like he handled Ventress so well. Like
Yeah. Yeah. And there's those people saying, like, come on, Ty, come on. Like, if they bring Ben back, I will not do anything extreme. Let's just say that. Like, I'm not gonna say I'm gonna eat my right toe if they bring Ben back. No, no, no. I'm not gonna say anything like that because I'm just not. Like, it would be great if they did, but like there's nothing.
well,
Everybody
so
says there's no back door. There's the way the world between worlds is not a back door to bring Ben back. That is not what that's there for. I'm sorry.
it's there for
sorry.
Ahsoka, not
Sorry.
for him.
And it's not in the saga. It's not in the saga.
It is
It's
actually
not.
technically it is because it's in the
Technically,
it's in the visual dictionary.
yes, but it's not in the films.
Okay,
Like it's just not
I
there.
get it. Okay, you want to know how I feel?
No, I'm kidding. Go ahead.
Okay.
Please give us the hope. Give us the hopeful message. Please.
Okay, why am I hopeful? I don't view Star Wars in a way of like I want it to go this way. And I've been that way for a really long time. I want to see what they do and then analyze it and say they should have done X or oh, this totally fits. Why? Yay! Or oh, isn't this interesting? Could it mean this? Because as much as like I want things, I'm not the creators of Star Wars, and I would rather have them be brave and unencumbered by my fucking opinion. Did I just swear?
Yeah.
Oops.
Yeah.
This
Oops.
is not for children. Children run away. So
too funny.
How do I feel? They could bring him back. I don't know that they will. And if he comes back, it will be in 3 years.
Yeah.
Because that's how long it takes to make an animated show.
It's not gonna. There's no way it's gonna happen. It's not gonna happen. Sorry. Anyways.
No. The only way it happens is if somebody really, really high up thinks that he is the best character in existence.
Yeah, and I just don't see that. I don't see that.
And
if that would have been the case, then
we don't know. We don't know why this happened. That's the part that like we don't know why Tross happened the way it happened. We speculate, we guess. We're like, oh, all this drama, blah blah blah. We know what happened. We just don't know why, and that's the part that is hard for many people to get over the grieving process, because in so many ways we as humans need a post-mortem to say, oh, it died of fandom abuse.
Yeah.
There was a misogynistic man in Disney and that's what happened. Like we need post-mortem to get over it, to finish grieving. This is going to cause a wound forever until they decide to deal with it. It takes time to tell story. So
yeah.
Like they started working on Star Wars Rebels as soon as the Disney acquisition happened, and it took them forever to release the first episode, right? Because it takes time. And that's part of the problem, is that, and back to that patience point, is it's gonna take time. I mean, if it happens, it's gonna take time, and you guys will probably have moved on to something cooler by then.
Yeah.
Or still listening to me talking about other stuff. No, I mean, the mythology is, though, and this is one thing that I do need to say, is not just one story. We see the myth play out in The Mandalorian, right? And so all we need in The Mandalorian is at the end for a transcendent moment to happen.
Yeah.
And then it will have completed the myth, right? So after it's run, at the end, there's a resolution, and then he returns to his society, or he returns to society with the elixir. It will have completed the myth. And I have hope that they will tell the myth in multiple ways, in different ways. And maybe we'll get a different version of a romantic, transcendent, alchemical union. And then that would complete the myth. But I just don't know if Reylo's going to be a thing that's going to happen. And nor do I necessarily want to be the person that's like, please only tell the stories that I want you to tell, because I want to see what they do. And that's always been my thing. But I totally understand the desire to be like, please tell the story. But here, tell it for yourself. It will mean more to you, and you might do it better.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. Next one.
We can combine some of these.
Okay.
I think. So question from Riss and question from Blind Man Baldwin are Matt here, who's monitoring the chat right now. First one was, which Star Wars character do you relate to the most, and why? And then Matt kind of said, if you had to be quarantined with one Star Wars person, real or fictional, who would it be? Just an odd question. Real or fictional. And so I don't know if I have much to say about this one, because I'm very butthurt right now. And I'm like not feeling it. I'm not feeling it. So I'm going to hand this one to you. But before I do, we didn't put a disclaimer on this. We did last time, and I didn't have to.
Okay.
Do you know what I'm saying? I have to pee.
Oh. All right. Well, I'll answer while you're away. All right.
Thank you.
Go run away. Yeah, so this is my life with recording with Ty. In seriousness, she goes and pees all the time. Okay, so real life in example. Okay, so who do I most relate to? Oh my goodness, Rey Pretros, and a little bit of Kylo. I kind of relate to both of them, and that's just how it is. Who would I like to be quarantined with? Yoda. I think that would be so much fun. Like, Empire Strikes Back. He's going to make me food. He's going to giggle. He's going to make sure I go and work out and ride me like backpack. 'Cause right now I'm not. At all. In the chat, quickly, who do you guys relate to? I was actually trying to think about this question, because like, who else would be good to be quarantined with? I think Padme would be really good. She'd probably like make sure we went to the lake country and like hung out. So I said Yoda quarantined with, because he would make me food and made sure I would work out, and he makes jokes.
Yeah, I can see that.
And I most relate to Pretros, Rey, and Kylo.
There you go.
Both of them.
That's good.
Together.
I like that.
In alchemical union, which was the point.
That would be my answer too. I'll say yes to both of those. Absolutely. That's good.
Yes.
Awesome.
Okay. if you could talk to the higher ups at Disney Lucasfilm with suggestions to give them going forward for new content or new projects they could choose to produce, go and watch some Asian dramas all the time. Specifically the immortal ones with gods and mythology.
Wait, what did they ask? Wait, what?
This was from Anissa.
Oh, if they could top. Okay. Yeah, we basically answered that already.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about it more too after this.
And then this one is for you from Bailey. Are there aspects of Tross that you initially hated, but now made peace with or even love?
I furrow my brow. I have not. I've made peace with its existence. I don't. I think. Here we go. I have something positive to say. A lot of people don't like me for saying this either, though. So sorry. I think JJ is a great director. Period. I think that he needs to be told that he is bad in certain areas. Yes, yeah. He needs to, his head needs to shrink a little bit. He's given too much slack. Yeah. Way too much slack.
Somebody boosted up his ego too early on in his career. I blame Steven Spielberg.
Absolutely.
Completely. It was Steven Spielberg that did it, and he needs I think maybe Tross was his humbling moments.
I think so. From what we've seen so far, I think so. And I hope that I don't know. I don't know why I care about JJ at all. I think it's because I analyzed him a lot in a video, and I think that not for my video's sake, but I just get it. Like, I get where he's coming from. I got into his head, and I have a lot of passion for a lot of people, a lot of compassion for a lot of people.
Mm-hmm. So I would even forgive Terrio if he started listening to my podcast and learned something.
100%. I could see Terrio being a very redemptive personality, very redemptive soul. If he could just be exposed to certain things, and if he could just look at them with a certain eye, I can see that. But so my answer to that is, I like the banter. I like the funny parts. I don't laugh at them. I don't think that they're funny in the moment. But I can see through that wall of that bad movie and that bad narrative. And I can see the talent, and I can respect the talent,
I absolutely
and the documentary
respect every creator that contributed from a creative craft perspective. The monster creators, the people who did prop design, the people that did costuming, like they all get like concept art, they all gave their hearts and souls to this movie. And because the structure and the writing was just so out of touch with the zeitgeist of where we are as a culture, it feels disconnected with the mythology. And I have come to peace with its existence as well, in that I tolerate it, but I have yet to watch a Star Wars movie, and that makes me so sad. I've been able to watch the TV shows, read the comics, but I can't watch the saga, and I haven't gotten that point yet, and I don't know how long it's going to take, but I'm like giving myself, like the Emperor is dead, I'm giving myself a year of mourning and seeing where I'm at in a year. I hate to admit that. I feel crappy that it has affected me this much. And when I admitted that to a friend, she was like, "Really?" And I'm like maybe you don't see the structure and like how broken it is, but it's really easy for me to see how broken this movie is, and that it makes me sad for all of the creators that literally gave years of their lives into it.
Yeah.
That's not something that they can be like, I'm proud of this.
Yeah, no. And that's why we've seen what we've seen after.
I have it from a friend who was at the Friends and Family cast or Friends and Family crew screening. Mm-hmm. Nobody cheered at the end. Nobody clapped. Nobody was proud of what they produced. At the end of 40 years of a saga, cast and family and friends viewing, like, you didn't get a clap.
Well, that was the tone of the documentary too.
Yeah.
The tone of the documentary was very serious. It was very mournful, and they tried to make it seem like, oh well, we're mourning Carrie, but
that's not it. They were mourning the
wasn't
saga.
it.
It was like,
yeah,
it was like, normally when a series ends, instead of deciding to go out in proud and in joy and in like, hey, they could go off in anywhere, they decided to murder it. Yeah. And they were pre-mourning, or they were like, this thing has cancer. And as somebody who went through that with my dad, like, watching my dad slowly die, like, that's the tone of what they produced.
Yeah.
And that's like, come on, guys, you could have figured this out. But
they were just very, again, like, this is, somebody said on Twitter, like, this is a really good example of groupthink. The more information that comes out, I think, about Tross, the more obvious it becomes that they were all buying into an ideology that was sold to them by one or two people, and they all just like gravitated. They all just, they plugged into it, and they got it, and they got the job done. And I don't think that they even understand that.
And it will take years for them to understand what happened and why it was a mistake. But it's like, immediately after we watched the movie, Ty and I recorded and knew exactly what happened.
Yeah.
Sorry.
You can feel it. Yeah. You can feel
it. Do you have hopes? What do you hope to see in the High Republic? Internal conflict and issues and personality problems and like history and stuff. I just want everybody to cry and then have to deal with their own shadows.
I just want what Avar, whatever her name is.
Avar Chris? Yeah.
It's her. I hate that her name is Avar Chris. I hate this name. I don't know why. I just like have such a like revulsion to it. Like, I can't help it. But
I hope there's unrequited love between her and that guy that she grew up with.
Oh,
and they're both masters.
I did not have the same reaction as everybody else did when I saw this description of her and how much it was just like, she is so good and she is so this and she is so that and she's never this, but she's always this. And I was like, okay, now I'm
son of a beast.
Now I'm interested, because what do I like more than anything?
It's just a starting place.
It's a starting place. It's a starting place. It's exactly where, like, how was it Soul or Kevin that responded to you and said, like Kevin said, don't worry, like, stop being scared. I'm getting it. I'm buying into it. I'm not hopeful about it. I'm gonna put some walls up between my emotions and it.
I'm not gonna get invested unless I see and like people who like call people SJWs are like, oh, you're just value signaling. Hell yeah, I'm value signaling. I want romance in my fucking Star Wars, you assholes.
That was good. Yes. So wait, Freya Jason. I know Freya Jason.
Yes.
Who's Freya Jason?
Michelle.
Oh, yeah, Michelle. I was like, wait, I know this is her name. Michelle said that Avar Chris sounds like a villain.
Yeah.
And it sounds like a villain. It sounds like a really bad name, a really bad Star Wars hero name or a villain.
Well,
and I'd be okay with
like,
the villain.
It's like avarice, like greed and stuff. And
okay.
And Star Wars is very much like that. So
no, you're right. Maybe I didn't see it that way first, but I get it. I'm plugging into it. I'm not gonna read it. I'm just gonna wait to see what happens. Anyways, shall we move on to the second part?
I'm sorry, I made everybody deaf. Sorry.
You did scream very loud.
Sorry. Your poor ears.
Deaf.
All right, on to the main event after forever. All right. Sorry. That was forever.
Even though this is a live stream, we're talking about a variety of topics. Marie Claire wanted to do a thesis statement for this, kind of how
Yeah.
we've done on other episodes. And I think it's all encompassing for everything that's going on right now, everything our fandom is going through. It's very relevant. And I'll let you say the first part of it because you wanted to.
Yeah, people have to keep on talking about things that they're passionate about and things that they want to see in their media in order to have them bleed into the mainstream. So, as an example, you need to uplift stories that call to you, speak to you. You have to uplift these and get more people interested in them. And you have to be like critical of things that try to pass themselves off as femme gaze but are really not. They're masculine gaze in feminine clothing.
There's so much of that. There's so much of that. So
this is just where we're trying to go. And to you?
Yeah. And then on top of this, a big part of this is that sharing what you love, and obviously sharing, you know, what speaks to you makes a big difference, but your anger and your disappointment is a part of that. So how I was saying earlier about saying, you know, F this person, F that person for doing what they did, creating what they did, that's fine. But like, you know, be mindful of, you know, what you're sharing, and being able to say, this is what I want. I don't want this, you know, F you for doing this. And I'm offended and I'm mad and I have a right to be mad. I'm justified in my anger. But then also like, what is it that I want to see more of? And that's why I made my video. We have to be able to say what we want. We can't just live in this very clearly. We can't just live in this ambiguous area. Which it's funny because my video does come across as ambiguous to some people, but you know, we can't live in ambiguity all the time. We do sometimes need to find our footing, in terms of saying like, we want to see this, we want to see that, we want to see, you know, more women creating Star Wars is a really good starting point, right?
Yeah.
That's a good starting point because at least that's bringing women, or, you know, and obviously like other people, non-binary and, you know, different races and different perspectives, like bringing those
different
people
voices
to Star Wars
will create different story lenses.
Yeah.
And that's why that's important to do from a representational perspective, because it's not just about representation, it's about inclusion of those perspectives and those lenses.
Yeah, exactly.
So in this, when you go to social media and uplift the media that you want to see, or that you find that brings you joy, it's like voting for it. So think
much
about
more
it.
than people think. Yeah,
much more than you think, because everybody runs media stats on these things. So for example, and we're going to get into this example later on, but Lore Olympus has been the top webtoon on Webtoon for like over 2 years, and it is being made into a television show. So consuming that media, talking about that media is more important than yelling about things that you hate. Uplifting the things that you love is more important than downvoting the things that you hate.
Yeah.
We're going to get into
absolutely.
that. All right.
Yeah.
Ty, you did an amazing video. Did you know that? I think you knew that.
I made a video.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I made a video about very relevant to what I've watched recently and the conversations I've had with women and the kind of things that, if people have been following me on Twitter, I asked a lot of questions within the past like few months or so that was just trying to gauge like where other people land in terms of what they think is femme gaze, what connects with them. You know, I've been watching a lot of things that women have been suggesting for me to watch, trying to figure out, okay, what is the modern day feminine gaze, and what does that mean for us going forward when something like Tross happened? You know, I don't make content in a vacuum. Like I can't ignore things that have happened to me or at me or in my world. I don't make content for, nobody else reads my stuff before I make it. I think people think that wit and folly
sometimes I
is,
do, but no. Yeah, you're
sometimes
primarily you
you
ask me
have read
things.
like, I run through things with you. I talk about it with you to get an idea. And some people don't know this, but like I ask people questions, like, my moots in Twitter,
Mhm.
questions that help me with what I'm working on,
Yeah.
or maybe just a topic
Kind of
that
like
I'm taking notes. Yeah, and
pull the world. Yeah.
constantly taking notes on the things I talk about on Twitter, because you'll have to remember, like, you know, I'm a very specific type of person from a very specific type of place. I have a very limited perspective. So yeah, when I made this, it wasn't trying to be all encompassing. It wasn't made with anyone else. It is purely my perspective. And I think I put a disclaimer on that. I think enough in the video. But there are a couple things I wanted to touch on since we are in a discussion realm. This is a discussion realm. I I didn't, some things in the video I wasn't sure how they would be perceived, because I didn't talk about intersectionality. And I didn't talk about how non-binary, about how other people with other disadvantages came into play. I didn't talk about that because I had a very limited window of time, and I didn't want to delve into other topics that I thought would distract from the main topic. So I wanted to say that the need for diverse voices is like the most important thing. And that's why I use the term feminine as opposed to female, because we see, like, the guy who was recently tapped to be the writer of the Kenobi show.
Yeah, who's replacing the previous
Oh
writer.
wait, is it Mandalorian?
No,
Oh
it's
no,
Kenobi.
it's the Kenobi show. Okay, it is the Kenobi show. Yeah, so when he was tapped, everyone was obviously furious, or a lot of people in my side of fandom were furious, as they should be, because that's where this whole thing begins. And he
the
was
idea is
replacing
the structure, the what kind of story you're telling starts with the writer.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And and also the second part of that is he made a headline, right? There are smaller positions throughout Lucasfilm where women are creators, or they're contributors in some respect. Those positions don't make headlines. That position made a headline, and Lucasfilm needs to realize that when they appoint these roles, it's putting an image on them.
It says something to the general audience because it actually makes it to the layperson who maybe isn't following Star Wars as much, and it's unfortunate.
It's very unfortunate. So that's kind of like what I want to say about like the intersectionality thing, is that I think that femme voices and non-binary voices, and like anyone who's at a disadvantage, those voices are really, really important. And I want to continue making content about those voices, but I need to be careful about doing so because there's a lot of sensitivity there, especially from a mainstream content perspective, because my channel blew up because of Star Wars. Sorry, not blew up. My channel got semi-popular because of Star Wars. So, there's just there's a way to handle it, and there's a way to go about it. And I hope people can understand that, looking at what I create and seeing a kind of a journey and understanding I'm not done yet. I'm still exploring. I'm still learning. I'm still taking these perspectives into consideration and trying to adapt them into my regular media intake. So that's important. Another thing was that looking for Leia, if you have not watched it yet, looking for Leia, you did watch it.
Yep.
Okay, good. Because last time we talked about you hadn't watched it.
I was tired.
It does this watching it now is kind of like it really makes me like super exasperated, because they did this beautiful documentary, and I say it was sci-fi. It was not run by Lucasfilm. There was no official voices in this whole thing. This is all just by the fans, for the fans. But the whole documentary keeps saying over and over again, you know, with women voices and non-binary voices. And they have all different kinds of women, and they have trans women. And it's a very beautiful way, I think, of looking at the feminine input to a mainstream media conglomerate, right? So that's kind of what I'm trying to do now, is I'm trying to understand that part of intersectionality where those voices are asking for the same thing, basically. Yeah. They're asking to be heard in the same way.
It's interesting because this was done, and if it didn't include those voices, it would have been promoted by Star Wars.
Yeah.
I think that's very obvious. I
think it's very obvious, yeah.
It was not promoted by Star Wars. It was not retweeted by Star Wars. It was not picked up by Disney Plus. This would be a perfect thing to put on Disney Plus.
Well, and considering that, you know, Star Wars is all concerned about the legacy of Carrie Fisher, the show is literally called that. Yeah, it's all about Carrie's legacy.
And so so feminine is bigger than just women. And the fact that this is excluded is part of the problem.
Oh, yeah. It's absolutely part of the problem.
And we notice these things, and we have to comment on them. We have to say this. If we don't, nothing will change. I do want to say I snapped this week. And mentally I snapped, and I created a sub channel called What the Fiction.
Yeah.
Because I was like, I can't talk about Star Wars the way that I want to talk about Star Wars. I'm still going to be talking about Star Wars. But I also want to talk about other stuff. Like Ty and I for a while had a podcast called Fall For It, where we talked about Asian dramas, and I miss talking about fiction from a femme gaze. And, you know, hey, what does this mean in the meta, right?
In the meta, yeah.
Yeah, in the meta. And like so some of the things I want to talk about is like how different interpretations of Jane Austen have come to light, and who's been driving that story. Like recently we've had Emma, which is so good. So good.
I want to talk yet. I want to watch it.
Oh my god, you're gonna die. You're gonna die,
know.
And then there's gonna be a video about it, and I'm gonna love it. But you know, like Jane Austen, I want to talk about Asian dramas. I've got some stuff that I want to talk about with Natasha Fox as well, who, you know, has been on the podcast before. You know, I need to talk about other stuff to bring highlights to it, because it's the only way we will uplift the stories that we need to see. We need to see these things become mainstream, and we need to talk about them more, and we need to drive the conversation. Because if we don't, then somebody else is driving the car.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. We have to keep talking about it.
Little Women.
Little Women is a big one.
Knives Out is femme gaze. Like, it doesn't and to Ty's video, and I just need to say that. So Ty,
Marie Claire,
you're amazing, and you nailed it. You nailed it with your video. You exactly figured it out. And it doesn't necessarily take a female creator to create femme gaze fiction, but it helps.
Yeah. It helps.
Yeah, Ryan Johnson understands femme gaze, so we trust him.
Yeah, he does.
Portrait of a Lady. I got a Lady on Fire. I've been told, I was told to drop, I'm like editing the podcast last night, and somebody's like, drop everything and watch this movie, Marie Claire. And I'm like, but I'm editing the podcast, and I kind of want to finish that and then go to sleep because I'm streaming tomorrow. And they're like, fine.
Yeah. That movie is insanely definitively femme gaze.
Have you watched it?
I haven't watched the whole thing. I watched half of it and I had to turn it off because I was like, I have to get this video done. And I think I have everything I need, basically. I was like, I got everything I need from this. Let me continue. But yeah, it's very good. I haven't finished it yet. It's long.
Do you want to briefly just highlight like what is the main thing that we need to see from feminine gaze media?
Yeah. So I like the idea that I think the feeling over action idea is kind of like one of the bigger points about femme gaze media. There's a lot of different ways to look at femme gaze media. So I'm not going to say it's just, I don't like to summarize it. I think that this is a bad area, right? This is why my video does what it does. But I can say that generally, I'm like, where do we even want to start? Where do we even want to start with this?
Yeah.
I don't have an elevator speech for.
Okay, I'm going to start it at a different place, which is, please. How does feminine gaze media feel to especially feminine people?
It speaks to them.
Yeah, but like how? Like how does it feel? Like I'm going to take you back to walking out of The Last Jedi, because this is exactly the experience that was echoed through the collective subconscious of many women, which is when they walked out of The Last Jedi, they were like, Star Wars is speaking to me. Finally. Yeah. What? Star Wars is speaking to me.
No, that's a good place to start it at.
Yeah.
It's something, it has to do with, it's saying that what you feel matters.
Mm-hmm.
Feeling matters. Emotions matter. In fact, they don't just matter to you, but they could be the solution for all of the problems of the world. Sympathy, compassion, and those things are good.
Also, there's a certain amount of discovery of those feelings in the story and giving them the weight to the plot that comes across for femme gaze media and fiction, that when hey, that person's emotions matter, and it like characters care about those people's emotions, and like, you know, decisions that they make based on those emotions have weight to the story. It feels good for the people that are watching.
Yeah. And there's different ways that people related to The Last Jedi, like in terms of like, obviously there's the Reylo crowd, but you know, there's also like people who liked Reylo but who liked Rose so much as a character, like really latched onto Rose. And like, you know, there's people who really liked what they were saying for the whole war plot with Canto Bight. And you know, all these little things are all femme gaze,
and being an awkward person who can't speak to your idol, like that spoke to so many people. Being a woman who feels like they have power, are trying to, you know, play in a man's world, don't understand the power and are afraid of it, and are afraid to kind of step forward into the light and be like, I'm the spotlight, I am the person in charge. That's a very feminine story to tell. And to say, like, the fact that Luke is like, almost had that line, like, you're gonna turn it all over for a pair of pretty eyes. Like, I kind of wish, even though I hated that line, I kind of wish they had kept it, because it would have said, look, your feelings are important and you're making these decisions based on your feelings. And that is so important to people who have a feminine perspective, because feelings matter to us.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a very like split hairs type of line, and it didn't make it into the movie for obvious reasons. But yeah, it's interesting. It's really interesting how when I walked out of The Last Jedi, I was like, hey, the mainstream is telling me the things that I like about things that are not the mainstream is a good thing.
Yeah, and it's valuable.
That's what it told me, and it's valuable, and it belongs in the mainstream
and shouldn't be hidden in private tumblers and like transformational works. No, we can be a blockbuster movie.
I really, 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 really hate that. I haven't had this conversation yet because it's killed me so much, so much. But yes, that's where we're at right now. We're watching things like Beastars. We're watching things like, K dramas and
Eternal
C
Love
dramas,
of Dream
and
that is so popular right now over across the world, but also specifically in China, like when it was released.
It kills me that I want these things to be mainstream in order to have like this like justification. Mm-hmm. It's like, I don't need the justification. That's not for me. It's for maybe the kids that I have. It's maybe for the people that come after me. It's to pass that down, like I'm fine. I got all the femme gaze stories I need, but please.
All right.
Please.
So media is changing and people don't even freaking realize it. Because like my daughter, who is 12, only watches things she wants. So she specifically watches YouTube role plays. Mm-hmm. And those role plays are entirely based on shoujo manga style writing that is written by Western people. So like there's literal like tsundere and notice me senpai type dynamics that you would see very popularly in shoujo mangas and animes that come from the shoujo manga style, and they're being created in Minecraft and then voiced. Specifically, one of her favorites is Aphmau, which has so many viewers. Like, it is bananas that this is something that exists and people create it, and then they have like basically all these kids that watch it. It's kids and young adults, right? But that's the media that they're going to, and I just don't think that they realize that my daughter will be an 18-year-old in 6 years, and by that time they had better have mainstream media to support her or she won't come looking for it.
So there's this interesting thing that Mulvey said about like the person who began the term female gaze, male gaze kind of thing. She said that women are going to stop going to the theater.
Yeah.
She literally said that. She was like, women are going to start discovering, and this was back in like the 1960s, like late 1960s, early 1970s. And she said, women are becoming more educated. It's a given that they're going to go to college now. And she was in Britain. So she was, from that perspective, but she was like, they're not going to want to go to the movies anymore because they're going to know, they're going to see what's on screen and they're going to say, hey, like this is for men, because coming from a Freudian perspective, she was, she says this is for the male gaze. So, but something weird happened and women were starting to be put, it was like a give and take kind of thing, more women were starting to be put into film.
It's that wave
more
pool,
indie
right?
films. Indie film started becoming a thing, I think, in the 80s. Exploitation film became a thing where they focus on like this one topic, and you can look it up. It's not as problematic as it sounds, but it's a little problematic. But anyways, like weird experimental stuff became interesting, and they were playing it. They started playing that kind of stuff in theaters. You know, you could go to the theater and you could watch these really weird indie films that you would never own on your own. You just go to this random indie theater to watch it. So anyways, like it's really interesting how the gaze adapts.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Yeah, Jesse said the most relevant thing.
Yeah. 80s
slasher movies.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we have a whole thing about that.
Yeah.
We don't need to get into it here,
we'll do it some other time.
How did he even like all right, Jesse, I love you. You're hilarious. Okay, anyway, so yeah, like yeah, that's a big topic.
Yeah. And so
and female perspective entered horror movies. Yep, around exactly. That time. Yeah.
So the thing is that Western media is 10 years behind Asian media from a gaze perspective.
Let's get into that.
Yeah, like
can I say the
Do you need to pee again?
No, I wanted to say that's probably soon, but I wanted to say this one thing about, because we were talking about so I talk about the feeling camera and about how
do that, sorry.
Because that was a really good transition, like the idea of the feeling camera in not Laura Mulvey, but Soloway that I used. She's a little bit more of an extreme version of, I think, feminine gaze than I do. I really like her perspective on the feeling camera, but she tends to take the perspective of women don't like action movies. I know, and I was really surprised about this, looking more into like her viewpoint.
How long ago was she speaking about this?
She's very relevant. She's very
so it wasn't
very
like
now
in the 80s, 90s.
I don't think so. I think she's younger than that. I think she's been speaking about it in like the last 10 years or so. She's very loud about it though. Hold on, let me just pull. I don't want to give people the wrong.
I don't know who she is, so this will be like educational for me.
Jill Soloway. So
I'm almost out of mimosa.
So okay, she is older than I thought she was, but she's been in so she did Transparent on Amazon.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So she's done a lot of more like non-binary voices and femme type gaze stuff, but she talks about femme gaze a lot. And so one of the things that she always brings up is like, we don't want Magic Mike, and we don't want these.
We do want Magic Mike.
Just like some women like it. Some women like it. Like, I'm sorry. Like I'm not gonna go to a Chippendales and be like, I'm not gonna act the same way that men do at a stripper place, but like I'm not, or at a whatever you call it. But you know, and I've gone to plenty. I'll say that, but I've gone to male clubs, you know, with my husband a lot, and I have so much fun there, and I have become friends with some of the women there. So like, and I find it fun. That's a fun thing, you know. But Chippendales, like I could never imagine going to see male strippers. Like that's just really odd. And then I watched Magic Mike, and now I'm like, okay, all right. And there's a certain area in which this hasn't been evolved, but there's a fantasy world that exists in this movie that I can understand. But it doesn't exist in real life. Let's just say that. It doesn't exist in real life. So anyways, Jill Soloway's point of view is that women still have not been given what they want at all whatsoever. And that action movies, they don't want to see, they don't want anything to do with. So you know, maybe she's not so stern on that, but she had her personal viewpoint comes out a lot in that area. So Michelle's like, are you guys gonna cause me to hype watch Magic Mike? Yes. Yeah, go watch Magic Mike XXL. Skip the first one. Second one's really good. It's really fun. Anyways, but yeah, so I'm trying to get back on my topic here. Yeah, I'm trying to get camera. So the feeling camera. She says, instead of action, right? We want to focus on feelings. And I kind of adapted that in my video, and I was thinking about I Am Dragon, which is it's a Russian film about a woman falling in love with the man who is a dragon, and it's really epic and awesome and very femme gaze. And there is a lot of action that happens in the film, especially when she's like trying to evade him and trying to escape from him. And one of the things that really just made me melt was when she falls off of the cliff and he jumps after her and he grabs her around the waist, and his hand on her stomach makes her gasp, and the camera in the moment captures that gasp, and she's like and it's a beautiful thing, and it's all wrapped up in all this action and all of this like heightened music and whatnot. And I think that's femme gaze, you know, if you want to transfer action. And another thing I want to point out before we talk about the Asian dramas, in Birds of Prey, a lot of the action is amazing as well. Mm-hmm. And something I cannot stop talking about with my husband is the stunt performance perspective of it. And
I love action movies.
But all of the women in Birds of Prey, if you watch that movie, next time you watch that movie, count how many times they kick instead of punch. They kick so many times because women
can kick because of the hips and the hip to waist ratio, and the balance is down, and so they have better power when they kick.
Yeah. And there's a moment when Black Canary is fighting in the alleyway, where the guy goes to grab her like this, and anybody who ever would teach you self-defense as a woman, they'll tell you get out of their reach as soon as possible, because you need to keep out of their grasp. They cannot grab you from behind. Like, that's the biggest thing. So she does this funny thing where she scurries out of him, grabbing her from behind, and it's very noticeable. Like, it's not,
there's so many little moments. Like
there's little moments. It's very much, to me, that's not the feeling camera per se, but that is the femme gaze action camera. It's very, in a way,
female, because like the little things, like how they run, how they fight, how they interact with the physical world were very apparent in Birds of Prey. Is awesome.
Very much so. The strikes, how Harley Quinn, when she hits people with what she has, you can see how much it hurts, and you can see how much it bounces back, and that kind of thing made me really happy watching that movie.
I want to take a little aside to the waist grab, because in Emma there is the dancing scene, and at this one point, like, he grabs her waist, and there's a big focus on her waist at that moment. They pre-focus on her waist, he grabs her waist, and then like it zooms into him grabbing her waist, and my daughter at that moment was like, whoa.
Oh my God.
And just to put this in perspective, that waist grab was essentially like the thigh grab in TLJ. Like, something that women are like, wow, that's intimate. Whoa.
Yeah, you don't touch men like that, or men don't touch you like that, unless there's
think about like high school or junior high school dance. You keep your arms on the shoulders, you don't touch the waist. That's the difference, and that meant something.
Yeah,
right?
Totally. I'm not gonna go to what I was fixing to say, but
you will do. I want to hear it.
You want to hear it?
Yeah.
I went partying a lot when I was in college, and I will never forget any single pair of hands that were on me in any way.
Yeah.
At all whatsoever. I will never forget it, because it's a thing. You connect through that touch. Yeah. And like, women think about that a lot.
In K-dramas, they actually call it skinship.
Mm-hmm.
So it's when you actually have a physical interaction, just even touching hands, touching hair, things like that. Yeah.
Yeah, it comes off of the word kinship.
Mm-hmm.
That has nothing to do with shipping. It's skinship. It is touching people and having a connection through that.
Mm-hmm. And that's sexy.
It's super sexy. Super sexy. Anywho.
Yeah. We'll get back to Birds of Prey, Josh, don't worry. I'm sure we will. So it's just, so the more women that you have behind the camera, and contributing to the conversation of the creation, the more likely these things will filter through to the audience. And Ty, you do an amazing job of this in your actual video. But so let's talk about kind of it's almost like a case study to talk about Asian dramas and what they do. And then we'll talk a little bit about North American media and kind of how it filters and bubbles up the femme gaze currently. And the independent film thing was a really great point. So it has to be outside of the mainstream media unless it already has some stuff. So we've talked so much about Asian dramas over the years. Where do we even start?
Yeah,
they're good, and some of them are bad.
Yes, some of them are bad, but you might watch the whole thing.
Anyways, just because it like tickles like that part of your feminine mind, right? Like, so that's the really interesting thing. Like, I've watched bad drama.
I watched an entire bad drama this week. It was only 10 episodes long, thank God. And it was only like 20 episodes each or whatever. I watched the whole thing because on Viki, they have this option to turn on comments that hit live. So you can comment on the video live, and then you can turn that comment option on when you're watching it. You can see exactly what people said during certain things. And with Asian dramas, there are tropes that happen that everyone knows about. But like, this one drama was so bad, so everyone was like, oh no, are we doing this now? You've got to be kidding me.
Vanilla?
No, it was called like it's a J drama. It's another J drama.
Yeah.
Coffee Vanilla is a J drama, a Japanese drama. This other one was called like Wanting to Hug You Tonight or Going to Give You a Big Hug Tonight, depends on the translation. And it was very bad. It starts out like very, like, you have a lot of hope in it, and then it just progressively gets worse, and you're like, well, maybe it'll get better. It doesn't. But then at that point, I'm just like, well, it's only 10 episodes long, let me finish it, because these people's comments were hysterical. Like, I was dying. It was so funny. But for those, I posted on Twitter a different Japanese drama that's very kinky that I've been watching, that I'm still in the process of watching because it's still airing and it's still being uploaded to Viki, and it is so good.
What is it?
That's a different one. That one's called hold on, let me look up the word because it's in Japanese. It's not and you'll know why I'm looking. Okay, so the name of the show I should be because the name of the show is Kaka Fukaka.
Okay.
And it is, I think it translates to like screwed up adults share a house or something. And it's just, I'm not even going to talk about it here because it's too explicit, but it is funny and the comments are funny. I mean, there's some dramas you have to watch with other people, and the comment ability on Viki makes you able to do that. It's hysterical. But anyways, so just an overview of like, you know, when we got into the Asian dramas, Marie Claire had watched them before I had, and right after The Last Jedi, I had that itch that needed to be scratched from watching Reylo, and then, you know, being like, okay, well, where are we gonna go now? Like, this is in the mainstream.
Like, what's available? Well, we got some Jane Austen out there. We got some, you know, Bronte sisters. We got classic, London, or sorry, United Kingdom fiction.
All of that was there, but it's like, I've consumed all of that. Like, what do I do now?
Like, I'm waiting.
I need some like modern day, or like some
give me my femme gaze
fantasy hit. Or some fantasy and some sci-fi, or like give me some other genres that have this kind of thing going on in it. And, for some reason it just clicked, like that, first one. And then all of a sudden you can't stop, because that is scratching the itch of femme gaze. And there's something beautiful that happens when, women and like the feminine and the kind of the non-binary as well, they don't like being tricked.
Yeah.
And this is a big thing that I
Mhm.
wanted to say, was that in masculine gaze media, there's a value on cleverness and originality, and being able to, like being able to trick your audience, telling them like it's one thing, but it's actually something else, and getting away with that. Men go, oh, well, I didn't see that coming. Oh, wow. Well, I guess that means it's a good thing.
This is
you
great.
Got me. You're much smarter than I am. I'll give you that. Women hate that. Absolutely despise it.
What we're walking into. Hey,
yeah,
I'm in the mood for when the guy chases the girl. I'm in the mood for when the girl chases the guy. I'm in the mood for, specifically, this is a boy love, conversation, or a girl love conversation. Like I want to know what I'm walking into before I pick it up.
And that's why any feminine fandom is going to be tagged to the ultimate.
Yep. Genres.
Tag.
Tropes. What are you getting yourself into? Because when you watch media, you are emotionally and psychologically committing to it.
Yeah.
And this is so important. And this is why I've been an advocate for Star Wars to start tagging its own media.
Yeah.
Is there romance?
I'm an advocate of of like Netflix tagging their own media.
Yeah.
So, yeah, please.
Yeah,
please.
Like we want to know what we're getting into, and so like sites like Viki actually have like detailed genre and also tropes. You can go to my drama list and be like, I'm kind of in for forced cohabitation right now. And be like,
I love forced cohabitation. It's like one of my favorite tropes for sure, by far. Another one of my favorites is when women dress up as men, and that's a trope that's tagged. I can go on Drama List, I can search it, I can read the non-spoiler reviews from people who rate them,
and you're
and
like,
say,
this isn't gonna be a happy ending, and I cried for 3 days. No thank you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's a beautiful thing what women have done to set up these communities to enjoy things they want to enjoy,
and also
without dealing with
people towards that media. Like they're like, hey, I want to watch this. So my new one that I am literally watching right now is called General and I, and
that sounds like General, oh my General, or whatever that was.
It's not though. No. So
it sounds like it.
Yeah.
It's so funny.
They knew each other as kids. They are enemies to lovers because they are on opposite sides of a war. He is in love with her and forces her to marry him. I know.
Oh my God.
I know. I'm freaking out about it all the time. She stabs him twice so far and poisoned him and herself once. And then he's like he's gonna be killed, and so she shows up to sacrifice herself to save him because she owes him.
Oh my God.
And there's this guy in a gold robe who's of course the king, or like the emperor, and like literally they have a pairing off. I'm like, are you Snoke? And he's like, he also had the you're never gonna be alone again conversation with her.
Oh,
it's got a lot of Reylo. And guess what? There's also Dark Union.
Of course,
because as a child she memorized the supreme strategy book, and with this strategy book you can win any war.
That's cool.
And so she has understood it, and now it is part of her, and so her power is what people are seeking.
Okay, that's really cool.
Like, this is why I've been
that's a Chinese drama, right?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, it's got all the makings of a Chinese drama.
Yeah, it's like,
Oh yeah, long good one. Yeah, I'm watching
I think
Crash
it's
Landing
Five
on You.
Kingdoms. I think it's
So
like a fictionalized historical version of the Five
yeah,
Kingdoms. So
that makes sense.
yeah.
I'm watching Crash Landing on You right now, which is
Oh,
a
sorry. It's General and
oh yeah,
General
type it into the
and
thing.
I on Vicky.
It's only on Viki, right? Because it's a C drama, so most of them are on Viki. Um, but so I'm watching Crash Landing on You, which is like one of the biggest dramas right now.
Oh yeah, it's on Netflix, right?
And
Yeah.
it's on Netflix. It is a Korean drama. It is not that heavy. It's very light,
Enemies to
but
lovers because it's like north
it's
and south
enemies to
of the wall
lovers.
of the
Yeah,
border.
he's a general from North Korea. She is a heiress from South Korea, and it's really interesting. At first, I was like, oh, this is like super light, like whatever. But I watched this video from these YouTubers that I like, named DKDKTV, and they do
Oh
a
yeah,
lot of
they're great.
yeah, they're really great. They kind of explain a lot of things to non-Koreans about what's culturally happening there, and so about K-pop and K-drama and idols and that kind of thing. And they had on a girl who had defected from North Korea to, like, they interviewed her and talked to her about like how the show was accurate or not. And she actually said that she had consulted on the show. Like she was
Oh,
consultant for Crash Landing on You to talk about like hairstyles and costuming and like how like daily life there and all that kind of stuff. So, and she actually said that in their interview that Crash Landing on You was pretty accurate as far as how it depicted North Korean culture. And I was like, what? In a drama? So it's really great because it's like lighthearted. It's got all of the tropes in it. So that's the unrealistic part. But the realism is in sort of kind of those little things like what they eat and how they go about like how they deal with their electricity or like not having electricity. And those little things are really interesting. So I'm learning a lot from it, just from that, but I'm also getting my drama fix, my trope fix, and seeing those typical things. And it's beautiful. There's also this idea that North Koreans, this is true, by the way, that it's not just an idea. Sorry. There's this understanding thing that like North Koreans watch South Korean dramas and they like sneak watch them even though they're not supposed to.
they do.
And yeah.
Oh
Yeah. Especially ones that are like towards the south, so they can like better get the reception for the dramas that are airing. And the girl who was being interviewed who had defected from North Korea was like, I wonder how they would take this. Like if they watch this.
this is like the full loop.
Yeah, like they get to see how they're depicted. So, and there are other dramas that deal with like North Koreans, but this is one of those that's very, like, it's not, like I said, it's not heavy. It's very lighthearted. It depicts them as very normal people, they just don't know what's across the border. And it's interesting. It's very interesting. But yeah, I think if you haven't watched dramas, like there's a whole world of melodrama.
Yeah, a comedy.
It's so good.
Fantasy, especially like Chinese and Korean mythological storytelling, will scratch so much of your mythological itch. Like, if you want to see the myth completed, go watch Ashes of Love.
Oh, absolutely.
If you want to see the myth completed again, go watch Eternal Love.
Eternal Love. Yep.
Just
Eternal
go
Love's
and watch
on
it.
Netflix. Yeah, both of those are on Netflix, I think, at this moment.
You'll be like,
good.
This is what it feels like. Yeah. Let's watch that. Yeah. And then you'll know, right? You'll know what it feels like so that you can become a more critical and I don't know, selective fan.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's what it is. Being able to analyze what you consume is hard, but if you can do it, then you can be a voice to say,
and you can become an advocate for the types of media that we deserve. And that's what like people like we need to do, because anytime that we talk about media that we love in positive ways, this is the positive engagement stuff that we always talk about on Twitter, right? Anytime that we're like tweeting about B-stars, positive engagement, we're like, oh, we love B-stars, we're all furries now.
And that is positive engagement. Yeah,
it is positive engagement, and people are going to be like, especially Netflix is going to be like, oh yes, we were already planning on renewing this for a second season, but we definitely should, because they not only get the stats, they also pay attention to the social media. And so having conversations about these things, having conversations about the things that we love and uplifting them is so important.
Yeah.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah.
And you were saying before we kind of got on, which was that it makes it very pervasive. And I wouldn't have watched B-stars unless somebody on Twitter was talking about it.
I told you to, though. And you were like, no, Marie Claire, I don't have time.
No. I told you I didn't have time because I had already seen like all these people on Twitter talking about it. And I had already said like, I have so much I have to do. Like, I literally don't have time for another show. Like, I'd already I'm like watching Castlevania. Like, I watch things that other people on Twitter watch. Right? I watch what other people on Twitter watch. And I have a hard time, like, picking up new things because one of my friends is watching it. I just have a really hard time dealing with that. I'm trying to be relevant. I'm trying to be a part of the conversation. But like at that point, I was like trying to finish my video.
I understand. And it was an important video. And I should have just locked you in the corner and made you finish it. And then being like, look, B-stars.
B-stars. Watch B-stars. Not B. B.
Yeah, it's the weirdest name. It's like B-stars. Yeah.
It's like Beast stars. But like it's one word. It's very odd.
So I do want to talk about, like, in Asian media specifically, they were all about adapting these popular stories from manga, then eventually webtoon, into media. And that's how the like female gaze infected, especially K-dramas, C-dramas, J-dramas. Like somebody mentioned way earlier on, and I apologize, I don't know who this was, Hana Yori Dango, which has been made 6 or 7 times now into both anime, live action show, and different even versions of the manga. It's like a cornerstone of femme gaze fiction in Asia.
Absolutely.
So that is Boys Over Flowers, Hana Yori Dango, and Meteor Garden, which you can also view on Netflix. And if you're looking for something that's Reylo-esque but ends happily ever after, just watch Meteor Garden.
Yeah, so good. So
modern
good.
day.
It's one of the things that I couldn't put. So I could not put that in my video without having to go into this whole spiel about how Asian media is different.
Yeah, it's very different.
I couldn't do it.
Yeah.
I couldn't do it. I was like, there's too many things to contextualize.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a different it's just a different set of parameters, but how we get there. Okay, so this is the thesis. This is the where we're going with this. How do we get there as Western media? Because that's what we enjoy. We enjoy English speaking content in our own, sphere of influence, right?
Yeah.
We enjoy stuff really hard, like so much, Asian media, and we uplift the voices of creators that are giving us it in and out of our visual and live media, right? So for example, what has happened already and how these things get uplifted, think Twilight happened, right? It was a book series. People were like, that book series, only teenage girls love it. Multimedia it affected us for years, the Twilight age, right? And then we had this bubble of young adult fiction. So we had like Twilight, and then we had you know, Hunger Games, and then we had Divergent, and it was all kind of in the same vein of that being popular because we consumed the hell out of Twilight in that time and age, and then those stars and those actors and then the production itself made tons of money. People like money. It all happened. But that's how Western people bubble up these things. They almost have to already come from widely accepted feminine gaze franchises that already exist, which is frustrating, trust me. But that happened in Asian media 20 years ago. That's how this all started. So what do we need to do? We need to bubble up media and talk about it.
Yeah, that's like how
50 Shades of Grey. This is in the process of happening with Lore Olympus, which is a very, very popular webtoon, which I brought up at the start of the show. It's going to be made into an animated show by Henson Animation. So like Jim Henson Animation is going to be making Lore Olympus into an animated show. And I want to talk about it because it deserves to be talked about. It is the best webtoon out there. It is the most popular webtoon out there. It is romantic. It is, you know, very complex. He is ancient and she is 18.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like, you know,
you're reading the problematic comments now.
Yeah.
Y'all are getting into things we can't get into.
there's problematic there's a problematic height difference. It's got all of the boxes checked.
Yeah.
So what we have to do is look for media and talk it up.
Yeah.
Wreck it.
Yeah,
to
talk
friends.
it up. Yeah, the community that we have created is that's what it's
and
for.
It's not going away because we love you guys. Even though Star Wars is not telling the stories right now that we want it to tell.
Yeah, but there's a funny thing about Star Wars, like where I know they're trying to Marvelize it right now, but unlike Marvel, Star Wars is more easily affected by the fans than Marvel is. No matter how the creators want to think that it's not and how much they want to ignore us, it is absolutely affected by the fans in the long run if they want to keep it a franchisable entity. So Marvel has source material. Marvel has things that they draw from. Anything that they do is a transformation of something that exists already. Star Wars is not like that. We've talked about this before on the podcast and whatnot. If they create anything, they cannot take it from something that existed already. So I have more hope for Star Wars to pull feminine creators to tell new stories.
Yep.
That's where I'm at.
There's a certain amount of churning through the crucible that needs to happen with some media, right? So it needs to be a really awkward manga, and then it gets turned into a slightly better anime, and then it gets turned into a really amazing television show. Like that's happened with Hana Yoridango. You can see the layers of development to its current iteration and how it takes something from each transformation. And I think that people need to look at media in different ways, that telling the same story over and over again is actually a good thing because then you can refine it.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of people say on Twitter, like, I don't want them to keep telling the same story over and over again. It's like, well, think about that from a mythological point of view, not a stereotypical point of view. you don't want to see the same types of heroes over and over again. But what about a new hero that goes on a similar journey and learns similar lessons? That's the kind of stuff we do want to see.
Yeah.
And that's what Star Wars
or
has
makes
been
a better
to me.
choice. Or,
Yeah.
like, oh, and like Meteor Garden has a redemptive villain in it too.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
and that was never in the original version. The original version ends super weirdly. Like, the things
that was a transformation.
That's the thing, is like the myth and the like ring storytelling of telling it over and over and over again gets us to the transcendent truth.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what we need. But we also need you. Like, we need you to uplift these voices. That is part of it. Like, I'm going to talk about this stuff. Like, I'm going to use What the Fiction to talk about this. Ty is going to continue to talk about this, hopefully with me too, a little bit, some of the time. But like, that's the point, is that if we don't talk about it, we can't get what we want out there.
Yeah. Exactly. And that was the thesis statement for today's whole thing, is everybody keep talking about
what you love and what brings you joy. And it's important because it says stuff about who we are as humanity, not just, being fed things. You don't want to be fed.
And let me just say this here too.
Okay.
Don't get mad at people for being negative, because tweets are real time, and they are totally based on emotion. It happens in a blip on the radar. It is not a big deal if somebody's being negative. It doesn't mean anything. There's a consistency of negativity.
Just don't act creators.
Don't act
that's
creators.
My rule.
There's a consistency of negativity that I understand some people have, and that is bad, and we can put that in the fandom menace corner. But like, most Raylos are not like that. I'm sorry, they're just not.
Yeah.
So
they're like, I'm gonna go and create my butterfly. Oh my god, I love the Raylo
the butterflies
so much.
Yeah,
the butterflies, I love you guys so much. Like, they gave us a crumb. They gave us a freaking crumb, and we created an army of butterflies.
Of blue butterflies.
Butterflies. Like, how is that
pretty insane?
Beautiful and glorious and should be celebrated. Do you want to talk about the blue butterflies for a second, in case people aren't on Twitter and they don't know what the hell we're talking about? Okay.
I never watched the actual episode. I just know snippets of it.
So there is a series of rollout videos. So these were created for kids. They're little balls. They all look like BB-8s. And there was a Ben Solo video. And you just go to the kids Star Wars channel if you haven't seen it, and watch all three. Basically, Ben Solo is a baby. Han and Chewie are planning something bad, i.e. they're gonna go and steal some stuff and from some bad guys, I presume. And Leia's like, no, and they go anyways, and Ben's like, I'm coming along, woo! And and like, they get captured because Ben, Chewie and Han get captured, and so Ben saves the day, and he releases these blue butterflies that are creating this substance that Chewie and Han wanted. There's no words, like, it's just like music, rolling, grunts, like, there's no words, so it's very cute and very easy to understand. And these butterflies are attracted to Ben. They help him out. They almost are a visualization of the Force, and it's almost like he exists in the blue butterfly sphere of things. And so everybody has taken on them as a symbolic representation of Ben Solo's spirit, and taken it on and putting it into their like Twitter names and stuff. And it happened literally freaking overnight. And suddenly there's like art, there's these beautiful stories, like it keeps on coming and coming and coming. And that is when the myth syncs up with the collective unconscious. It's like that happens, and then it thrives. And literally, the chaotic but sweet Ben Solo like was such a joy for the last 2 weeks. Like, it was so much joy. And like, that is what we have to uplift. What exactly happened, that's what we do. But for everything that we love and we sync with, and it speaks to us, That is what we need to do.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that like that was a really cool thing that I saw. And as much as I'm like, I know a lot of people are connecting it to like the hope that Ben comes back. And I try to stay out of that as much as I can, but you know, I thought it was a really, really cool thing. Again, it's just another example of like that.
So I just want to say
thing.
like to me, the blue butterflies are hope that the story will write itself in some way. And I don't know that that means Ben's going to come back. I don't know, but that it will speak to us again. Because if they give us good story and they give us good characters and they speak to us, it will work either way.
Yeah.
Yep. And the blue butterflies in Charles Soule's Vader run too. That represent Padme.
Okay. Yep.
Oh.
Yeah.
Anything else, Ty?
No. I have to pee.
I have to pee too. Whoa. So I guess we are going to sign off here. Ty, where can people find you? I mean, your @'s been on the screen the whole time, so if they can't find you,
find me on my YouTube channel, Wit and Folly, and then find me on Twitter at @black_TYM.
And I am Marie Claire, and I am at What the Force Show. My new YouTube channel, which I will update the liner notes to actually include the link to What the Fiction, because I want to talk about other stuff, and I want to talk about, you know, awkward stuff like how women's periods are handled in fiction.
Yeah, that sounds like fun.
Yeah. Let's talk about it. You know, let's talk about how to correctly handle Jane Austen versus not correctly handling Jane Austen. You don't leave freaking Jane Austen open-ended.
Yeah. That sounds like fun. Yeah.
Yeah. So lots of cool stuff upcoming. And if you want to follow me on my personal Twitter, I am Marie C. Gould on Twitter. And I generally talk all the time, so I'm always there.
True.
I hope you guys all enjoyed this. This was really, really great. Again, we're going to be doing this more often. If it's something that's not related to Star Wars, this was loosely related to Star Wars, but if it's not, then we'll move over to like What the Fiction or whatever and let you know the general stuff. Any final words, Miss Ty?
No, this was fun. We'll continue to do this. I liked interacting with all y'all in the chat. This was great. Yay.
Cheers.
Bye.
On the edge of